Welcome back to another episode of the Cyber Queens podcast live. We are your hosts of the Cyber Queens. We are missing Amber this week. We miss her very much. She's off doing her baddie salesy things. We will have her back next week. But we are your hosts today, Meryl and Erica. I'm Meryl Vernon, resident ethical hacker and offensive expert. Erica?
I'm Erica Eakins, founder and CEO of a firm that I cannot state yet.
Branding TBD. Anyway, she is the CEO now, so we're going to have to update her bio on our website. It's very exciting stuff. And I am so excited for today's episode for a very personally selfish reason. We are joined today by a woman you have heard me talk about many, many times on this podcast, and I have referenced many of our stories together. We are joined by my original cyber manager and mentor, Heather Hall.
Hi.
Ooh, Heather, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Heather Hall. I'm a demand and delivery manager in the threat practice at Optiv, an end-to-end cybersecurity company.
Now, what does that mean for those of us who are still trying to break into the industry?
Oh, goodness, yes. Demand and delivery manager. I'm still working that out, and I've been there almost 2 years. So from what I get is I ride the sales wave is what I tell people. So I interact with our clients and try to help them figure out what it is that they truly need in the threat arena, which is attack and pen, application security, incident response and vulnerability management. And then once that gets kicked off, I right seat ride and become an escalation point when things go awry or when things go awesome.
Awesome. Well, so it sounds like if things go well, it's your fault. But if things go badly, it's your fault. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, that's the goal. I get to be a catch-all and hopefully help the client figure out how they can fix the things that we find in their environments.
Awesome. We love that. We need more of that. Obviously, we have many insecure environments out there. So the topic of today's podcast, to get right to it, is that Heather and I were discussing the other day. We were just on one of our little chats that we have every so often. And, we were talking about how tech and cyber don't really meet women where they are in life. Like, I was like, why is this still a problem? I've been here for 4 years now. And I'm like, gosh, it was a problem back when we met. It's still a problem. That's why we have the cyber queens. And why is that? And then we also started ranting about being a mom in cyber, which we all know is very relevant and difficult topic. But before we get into the topic today, I want to give Heather the opportunity because she's got such an awesome and unique background and entry into cyber story. So Heather, will you please give us your background and experience in the cyber industry?
I'll try to give the 50,000 foot view. So I started out in the Army, wanted to go to college. The Army was the way that I was going to do it. And one thing led to another. And somewhere along the way, through many of my never say no policies, I got asked to go be a cyber warrant officer. And that's really where it all kicked off. I got a CISSP, and it's been crazy since then. In cyber warrant officer school for the Army, I was trained by 11 of the SANS creators, which is amazing, and challenged 7 of those certs. Currently, I hold 14 security certifications, which if any of you all are reaching for that, don't. It's really hard to maintain. And then
really quick, can I stop you? Can you explain what SANS is for the viewers?
Sure. SANS is a training company, which actually stands at the beginning as System Administration Network Security. And in my opinion, they're one of the elite. Super expensive, but the people that do their training work in industry and are literally testing, let's say, a Biden computer somewhere. So yeah, very
interesting. So you
training now.
You've been through some of these certs, and you have 14, and I what I understand, they're very hard. So not to interrupt your introduction, but how hard was that for you?
So the Army does it very differently. It was 9 months of training, and in that 9 months, we would take a course, study for a week, and test. SAN's method of doing this is the way they want you to do it is take a course, study for 3 months, and then test. So we did that back to back to back to back to back. And the SANS courses build on each other, so you really can't do a pump and dump kind of methodology when you're taking this training. Like, you really have to try to maintain it. Most of their tests are open book, and everybody thinks, oh, easy breezy, cover girl, you've got all the material right there. No,
Girl.
not easy.
No.
Easy breezy cover girl.
Yeah.
I love that.
So when you're going through and saying somebody that's got a SANS cert didn't really struggle for it, I challenge you to put yourself in those shoes.
They're expensive for a reason, y'all. That's all we're going to say. There's a reason I don't have any. I'm not that cool yet. Hopefully I will be soon. Anyway, so there you were doing cyber in the military. Now, before you move on from that piece, because we're not going to revisit it, what does that kind of look like when you actually got all these certs and start doing the job in the military? What does it actually look like versus private industry?
So for me, there's various roles you can do as a cybersecurity professional. You can be a defender, you could be an attacker. In my role, I supported a state entity, and at times I was teaching a 8-man team how to do what I do, running audits of 4,200 systems across the state, and there have been times where I've sent people to jail because of the forensics work that I ended up doing. So it's all over the place, even in the military. It's just really the good idea fairy is rampant, and they put you to use wherever you can be used. Yeah.
You know, it does differ across the branches for me, and I'm sorry, Erica, I'll get to you in a second. For me, like I was only in E4 and I was in a cyber comms focal unit, and all I did was issue cat card tokens all day. That's what cybersecurity meant to my unit. But I was at a very small National Guard base, et cetera. So it's very different working for the different branches, working active duty versus guard, and then like the unit you land in will really determine your job. So it can vary, but Heather had one of the sexy assignments for sure. Erica, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to add, Heather. So, you know, I've been in sales for the last 12 years before becoming a CEO. I should have said that in my introduction for those that don't listen every week. But I've dealt with, on the sales side, government, state, local, you know, education, K through 12. And in the state of Nevada, we found something in one of the counties that was our customer. We were testing a product. We found some very illegal items on the mayor's computer, and not on his computer, on his computer, on his system. And we were required, because I worked for ForcePoint at the time, we were required to report it in 24 hours. And if we didn't report it, the customer has to report it. So they get 24 hours. So, you know, there's been times where even on the vendor side and outside of the military where we catch stuff like that as well. So it's all over the board. I'm glad that you touched on that, because people think that this is a great industry, but you also find things that you're like, this isn't so great. I have to report somebody for doing something illegal.
That event that I'm speaking of, me and my team locked ourselves in a room for over 2 weeks. I went home to eat and sleep for 4 hours. And tying this back into being a mom, I saw my kid like zero that whole time. So luckily I had a really strong support structure through all of this. I have 3 children, 12 and 2 twin girls that are 5.
Twin mom.
Yeah.
Twins. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and one of them is here today. She might come bursting in like Kramer. So if that happens, we'll just celebrate.
Infosec daughters, more of them.
It happens to Meryl all the time. So don't worry about it.
I'll frequently pick Eleanor up and put her on my lap while we do this.
She just walks in. You'll see her pick up Eleanor.
And even like as I went through all that training. I was looking to switch roles, and I was finding that at that point in time, about 7 years ago, people didn't really understand what SANS and the GIAC, it's an acronym, it stands for like Global Something Certification Authority.
GAIC, right?
Yes.
I've been seeing that everywhere.
Nobody knows what those mean. So I went and got a master's in cybersecurity, and very much like Meryl, did it in record time. all the while I was unknowingly pregnant and was changing houses, was changing jobs, did not
With
succeed.
twins?
No,
Was that with
I
the
did
Pregnant
not
with the twins?
succeed. No, I wasn't pregnant with the twins.
Oh, Isaiah, okay.
Oh.
My bad. I miscarried because of
Oh.
all the stress. So let's talk about something that people don't talk about. Our lives are stressful, and how do you do that, right? I bring it up because nobody ever talks about it. You know, I was under a tremendous amount of stress, and my body was like, "Screw you, I'm out." But I have the twins now, so in that time, I got a master's in cybersecurity and information assurance. Left the military, was medically discharged, changed jobs, bought a new house, moved to a different city, like all kinds of crazy things. And this is when I started a role for a private wealthy family. Super crazy niche market I did not know existed. And I was pregnant with twins shortly thereafter. Things were smooth sailing. I was happy. My job was wonderful. I was able to like help this family build their cybersecurity posture. And I totaled a Tesla at 22 weeks pregnant. That's like my claim to fame. I swear I share that on almost every story. It was a Model S, and quite literally, we were considering buying a minivan. And had I been in the minivan, the sheriff told me I probably would not have been alive.
Wow.
I walked away with a bruise on my hip, and the twins were still fine. But immediately after that, I returned and realized that I could not continue the hour-and-a-half commute and still be a mom and be safe. I was looking for another job, and that family decided I no longer needed to be employed. That was hard.
Erica knows a little thing or two about that.
We could go down that road later, but I'll help you.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, something that people don't always know is if you're working for a company less than 15 employees, they don't need to abide by pregnancy maternal statutes.
Yep.
I fell into that. And on the bright side, I did for a wonderful company where I got to meet Meryl.
Yay!
This is where I am to the story.
Yes. And when I say
that man was
Meryl, I'm not going to be humble. I found her ass. I really did.
Technically, one of my recruiters found me for you, but yes, you believed in me and gave me a
Meryl's
shot.
told that story. It's a great story.
Yeah. So for those of you who haven't listened to previous episodes, so I was also, in the Nevada National Guard at the time, and I was in a cyber title kind of a role, but not really doing a cyber job. And I got hit up off of LinkedIn by some random like tech systems recruiter to come fill a role for Heather. And I was like, I can't do that job. I don't know how to do that job. Are you kidding me? She goes, you do it for the Guard. I was like, totally different, not the same. And if it was, I still don't know how to do that job. But I interviewed with Heather, and Heather gave me a shot anyway. So when I say I got hired into tech with no tech experience, that was because of Heather. When I say I became a pen tester with no pen testing experience, also 1/3 in part because of Heather.
Yep.
Heather's
I love telling the story of the reason I hired you. Do you share that story, or do you even know it?
I believe that was...
It was David's bridal.
Oh yeah, putting back the dresses.
Yep.
My putting back the dresses story.
Yep. That was the one. That was the thing that I was like, this lady could have been sitting on her butt doing nothing, but instead she had initiative. And you know what? I can teach anybody to do cyber stuff, but I can't teach initiative.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You worked at David's bridal?
I did. So I've had a number of professions before I found marketing, which was my job directly before cyber. But I was everything from a certified nursing assistant to a wedding planner to a tech recruiter to I tried it all, man. I was kissing all the industry frogs trying to find my prince before I finally found cyber.
I worked at David's bridal when I was a teenager too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, that's why I was like, wow, I worked there. I was it was really hard. That was hard work carrying those.
It was hard. Yeah, I would. So what Heather's talking about is in my interview when I was again illustrating all the soft skills that I had and a lot of strengths that I do bring, but admitting very honestly that I didn't have the tech experience they were looking for because I don't like signing myself up for failure. I don't like putting myself in situations where I'm gonna fail. I know I can learn quickly, but I like them to go in knowing that first, so that when I do ask stupid questions and when I am learning, everyone's familiar and comfy with the learning curve. Meryl's gonna ask stupid questions for the first few months. I told Heather, when I worked at David's Bridal, I didn't know anything about wedding dresses or anything about weddings, but we had so many dress models, like so many. And I was like, how am I going to differentiate these? How am I going to find these? How am I going to be good at my job? So I started taking, when I first worked there, all the consultants' dresses from their appointments, and I would put them back in the racks. So I started learning the racks really, really well because I would be the one putting all the dresses away and spending time in the weeds of the racks of the dresses. So when I needed a dress, I was like, bam, 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 thank you, ma'am. And when everyone's like, I'm looking for the Galena, I'm like, too bad I already snagged it, sucker. So that was how I got the knowledge base to become really effective at my job as a wedding planner.
I think that's back to the subject of like moms and cyber. I think that's something that women sort of bring to the cyber community is some of those soft skills that you can't teach. The ability to take initiative, the ability to organize things, the ability to multitask. Like literally, I'm going to be bouncing a baby on my lap, typing up an email while talking on a phone and directing something else. And no one will know that they're not getting my special undivided attention, I hope.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we were talking about was I was having a conversation with one of my other mentees. Remember the reason why we started this chat today?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So one of my other mentees was mentioning her first day at her new company was 2 weeks after she had delivered a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this company required her to drive to an on-site to do in-person training.
Yeah.
I was livid. Had this been like 7 years ago, I would have been like, all right, suck it up, move on, girl. But
also, why do we have to suck it up at all? We shouldn't have to suck it up at all. Like, we're expected to work jobs like we have no family and raise our families like we don't have to work a job. Like, it's insane. It's insane. And, women are always just so like humble and grateful for what we've got. Like when I started working at the insurance company where I met Heather, Heather was pregnant with the twins, right? Like you were still pregnant with them, or had you just had them?
I had just had them, I think.
But you were hired there pregnant.
I was hired at employers pregnant. Literally, I started the job at 28 weeks pregnant with twins. And if y'all never seen a twin mama, this girl was big.
Yeah. And I remember her telling me, she's like, I was so stressed. Like, I was so ashamed to come in here and be like, I'm so sorry you just hired me. I'm going to have to take all this time off because I'm going to have kids in like a month. And I'm like, it was the same. When I was pregnant with my second daughter, I had to get a second job at Starbucks and they hired me 8 months pregnant. So like very, very close. And I still showed up every day and worked my job and took out trash and, did what I had to. But I was so grateful just to have a job, just that they took the chance on me. And I felt like I was inconveniencing them to have to go have my kid. And I was like, I'm going to be right back to work as soon as I can. And I feel like that's now a demand we've put on women. Like that is the expectation rather than like us going out of our way. And we're like happy to do it because we're just grateful to have a job and we feel like an inconvenience. And that infuriates me for all of us. I'm infuriated on our behalf.
I came across something interesting that's a new term called parental leave. And mind you, I might not be woke or whatever it is, but I was like, parental leave? That's interesting. That's awesome. Dads get to go do and bond with their child. There was no segregation between parental leave and maternity leave. This company had removed maternity leave from their books. And I was like, moms need that time and now you're not emphasizing it.
Yeah.
They're
really
probably trying to be
it took me back. Go ahead.
They're probably trying to be inclusive, which I understand, that because they're, mom is offensive to some people, but I do really think that is something that's sacred, the maternity leave. I'm sure that's where you're just going, but I've seen it where they're removing mom and removing pregnant woman and all this stuff. And maternity leave is a very special bonding time between a mom and a child. And that's just one thing that should not be taken away from a mother.
Yeah, and the United States does it terribly, you guys. Like, if we look at any other country, like, the United States is doing it.
Yeah, they get a year, and then they get to come back to their jobs after that year. And they get a 3-month ramp-up period to, like, reintroduce yourself and come up on whatever the new projects are. I don't know, we're doing it wrong. I will say I'm a fan of parental leave because I think that it's so great for new moms to have the extra support of their partner and not be like, well, I only get 2 weeks with you and then it's all on you. So I'm a fan of it being, I'm a fan of it being the same length. I'm a fan of men getting it too. It's not like, why do men get 8 weeks off when they didn't shove the child out? And it's like, because they're there to support the one that did. But some of us like the label. Some of us do like the label of like, we are going on maternity leave because we are the ones exiting the human from our bodies. But, not everyone feels that way. It's just, if you have a feel one way or the other, drop it in the comments. But it's one of those things where, Heather and I came in and we were like, we are so grateful. We are going to work so hard for you. We're going to make it up to you. We are so sorry. And our boss at the time, he was fabulous. He was like, don't stop. He's like, my God, stop. Like, we're not going to punish you for it. We're still happy to have you. We still think you're a value add to the team. I remember that day, Heather, I had to go pick up, was it Charlie, sick from school and bring her to the office. And I was like, I just started this job. They gave me a chance. I have no experience. I had to bring my kid into the office. And I told her to sit there in the corner at my cube with me and like make no noise. I'll just be in my room making no noise and pretending that I don't exist. But it was one of those humiliating things. I was humiliated and I felt so horrible. And Heather was like, stop, this is fine. We're all parents. Like our coworker Bob was playing with her and entertaining her and showing her all of his like fidget toys on his desk and stuff. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful environment to work in. But like I felt so guilty.
Yeah, and I was just telling my team of dudes, I of course am the only woman on my team, and you'll be hard pressed to find very many technical females anywhere, honestly. And I was just like, I really appreciate you guys because they're totally cheerleading me. They're like being very encouraging, asking about how my kids are. Like this is what we all need. Every woman should have that support structure, be it at work, at home, and the ability to ask for help. Yes. Let's talk about that.
And somebody put in the comments that they had to stop breastfeeding their second child because the previous job did not accommodate time for them to pump.
Which is illegal, by the way.
Yeah, that's super illegal.
Or if they do, they make you go into the bathroom to do it.
Also illegal.
Do you want to eat your lunch in the bathroom? No, you don't, guys.
But
that's horrible. That's horrible. I don't know who this user is, but we are sorry you had to go through that, and that's not right. Actually, Erica, I don't know if you are allowed to talk about this or not, but Erica's starting a pretty cool initiative with the firm that she's starting up where she's, are you allowed to talk about your leadership team and stuff? The demographics?
Yes, I am. Did you want to go ahead? So
Erica's going to build an all-female leadership.
I am. All of my leaders will be females. We also are going to eventually roll out an internship program to help people get into cyber like Heather did. That's down the line, but we plan to do that. Female board. We will have male employees. We're not against men. Like I always state, we're not man bashers, but it is very important for me to have an all-female board, and all my executives will be females, and we will have parental leave. We will, we will work from home. We will it is a business that's going to be family first. Work is important, but part of having an all-female board is that compassion is there when, it's mostly females running a company. I have been in companies that are all run by men, for 12 years, and there are women sprinkled through and through, but they don't get it. They don't get like if you have a lady cramp during that time of month, like those can be detrimental. And one of my, core values is that family is first and work is important, but this is really something that we are trying to make a change, especially in cyber, because it is going to be a cyber company. And things like this, hearing this, I'm sorry that this has happened, but this just makes me want to be even better.
Right. And I love that. I love that you have the opportunity to do it your way and you're going to execute a vision that you believe in, because this kind of culture does come from the top, which is one of those things. So some of the ways that we think tech and cyber don't meet women where they are in life is, first of all, a lot of training is remote now, but expensive. And that makes it inaccessible to women in softer skilled roles like teachers or stay-at-home moms. They're not going to be able to fork over they're barely going to be able to afford the $700 for the Sec Plus training and certification, let alone 9-10 grand for a SAN certification, which obviously speaks volumes in our industry. You think that person is a big beefy professional, but very inaccessible to a lot of the women where they are in life. And then we've got this whole work from home / return to office thing. A lot of companies are requiring a return to office, minimum a few days a week, if not completely. And a lot of companies are letting people to continue to work from home. And I don't think they realize how, from the female perspective, yes, it makes our life easier, because I also used to have to commute to Tahoe from Reno, and that was an hour and a half each way. And I had to get my kids to daycare at 6 when it opened, commute an hour and a half to make it to my job on time, leave right at 4:30, not a minute later. So I had at least 2 hours to get home in case there was traffic to pick them up before daycare closes at 6:30. Because they charge us by the minute, $1 a minute that you're late to get your kid from daycare, because you're impeding the teacher's family time. And, so not having a commute does make our lives easier. Being able to pick up our kids if they are sick is a convenience and is nice. Being able to take them to appointments and stuff and not have to physically leave the office, which is very noticeable and men almost never have to do, because it usually falls to us. But it's one of those things where it meets us where we are, and they want to take that away from us too. And we're not less productive. In fact, we're, like Heather noted, insanely productive multitaskers. But it's just another one of those culture things in cyber. We have a diversity shift, but we're not actually enacting the things that enable more diversity, especially for women.
Essentially. Well, and I believe, being in sales, like I said, for 12 years, COVID was amazing for companies to realize that we could do a lot of things from home. I know there's the argument about productivity and this versus that and numbers. I'm not here to argue that. I do believe that a lot of in our jobs in cyber, especially even what Heather does, you could work from home. And if your employer requires you to go in the office, I know Denver, Optiv has an office here and the reps go in, and then there's happy hours, and that's fine. But in cyber, one of the reasons I chose to stay in this field is because I've been able to work from home. I used to live in Illinois, and I only lived 30 minutes from downtown Chicago. When I would have to go into the office for whatever reason, my boss was being my bosses at the time, it would take me 2 hours one way. So for me to get up, put my makeup on, get my kids to daycare, because my kids are older now, but they were little. I've been a single mom basically my 23 years that my kids have been alive, and it was tough getting them to the daycare, the babysitter, and getting home in traffic, and you're expected to stay for happy hours being a salesperson. It's very hard to navigate, and I don't think we give women enough credit. Men do a lot as well. Y'all are great. But we don't give women enough credit. When I would say I cannot stay for this happy hour because I have to get home because my daughter has a one of my daughters is a cheerleader. That was what? No, you must stay. And it's dude, who's home with your kids? My wife. Exactly. I don't have a husband or a wife. So, and being single parents is also hard. That's a whole nother conversation. But juggling twins and both being in the military. Thank you for your services, by the way. Memorial Day is coming up, and I'm wearing a USA shirt, so I want to remember those who served. But just juggling all of that, men don't have to do the same things that we have to do. I've always told my daughters, I'm a single parent, and their dad, whatever, if he's not involved, but I always had to bear the brunt of everything, because if I didn't do everything, and it was my choice to have kids, I'm not blaming anybody, but I had to get them to school, feed them, take care of them, do all these things. And we're not together, but he sees them would see them once a week, on the weekends, which was great, but nothing else. He would never pay anything extra or buy them any extra clothes. I always had to do that. Well, child support is enough. Well, no, it's really not. That's just basically what, you're helping support the child, but this is still not a 50-50 thing. And I think that especially in cyber, and it being predominantly men, they have wives or girlfriends, and they have never walked a day in these shoes. I would love
they could last 10 minutes in high heels, by the way. I RSA'd in high heels, and y'all men, you can't do that.
Girl, trust me. I would love to see a role reverse. And I know people do this. Like, there's really great husbands and fathers and men out there who do these types of things,
Yes.
where they will like walk a day in their wife's shoes or whatever. And then, she should also walk a day in his shoes to see what he goes through. But I just don't think that there's enough of this, and it needs to change. And like I said, I'm hoping to help change that, because cyber, we need to move forward.
So question for the both of you, because you're both leaders and you're both moms. What can organizations do to build a more supportive environment, or a more inclusive culture? We all agree it comes from the top. So what are some things organizations can do and consider actually to like support diversity and support moms and women?
Yeah,
Heather, you can go first.
From my perspective, I love to see organizations have people at the top that look like the people at the bottom. So, for instance, in my company, I love to see people that are technicians in cybersecurity having broken the proverbial glass ceiling and are now leading from the top, because they were keyboard warriors at one point. And that's very rare to see, is to see someone that has risen from being an application security professional or a penetration tester or someone that has set up and configured firewalls to now you are sitting at the top helping make and govern rules. Additionally, there was someone that mentioned, the old women's club, I guess you could say, is that, we had to do this, we had to struggle through this. And let's all remember that we had to do this and we had to struggle through it. That doesn't mean that everyone else needs to. We can take a chance to stick up for people and have this very conversation that it is complete bullshit that someone had to take their baby to a week introductory course that could have been done over Zoom.
I agree with you on that 100%. I'm going to add to that. So I would love to see people that look like me or women at the top, because it does start from the top. And those women at the top, I would like to see that they are less toxic, because they, like you said, people have struggled through things. So they're not going to give it easy to anybody. And I don't agree with making it easy on anybody, but because you struggled for 20 years and you are a complete, miracle in the industry, and you got to the top as a CISO or whatever, don't make it hard for other women. Like, women need to support other women. That's one of the things I need to see in companies.
Make it easier for the people behind you. Don't make it harder.
Correct. And this generation, the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, like, they are a completely different generation, and they're not going to tolerate that. I had to, my mom always used to tell me, I had to walk 5 miles in 10 feet of snow to school, get your butt to school. Like,
Ray said the same thing.
Nobody ever walked that far. But what I would also like to see is, diversity, equity, and inclusion. When companies throw that topic around and they throw somebody as a chief diversity officer, I would like to see that they actually follow through and make changes within the organization, instead of making themselves look good on social media or to the market. Because we all know, just because you have a chief diversity officer and you put a minority in there, that's literally filling the quota, which is so horrible. It's the worst thing you could do. Like, a lot of the times I've been hired because they need to hire a woman. I was told that I was interviewed a couple times because they needed to interview a woman, but they never planned on hiring me. I would just love to see the diversity actually happen versus being talked about. And I would love to see that there's more employee team building with executive leaderships, and kind of like the day in the life of your employees, like to bring them back down to the pedestal that they've worked so hard to get on. Like Heather, I know Optiv CISO, Max, he is an amazing guy. Like, I'm pretty sure he is amazing to work with, but he also, supports diversity and things like that. And I need these companies to do these team building skills and just understand your employees, like how you tell us to understand our customers when they're buying. go a day in the life of your employees. And I realize everybody's busy, but I would love to see more team building and people interacting, whether it's virtually, to support each other and know that the support is there and not just fill a quota or meet a number.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, go ahead.
I'm so against D&I initiatives to fill a quota. I really am.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I can't roll my eyes back in my head far enough for you, Erica. Like Lord.
For reals, let's just take names and pronouns off of every resume and see who stacks up.
Ooh.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, people need to be, the right person needs to be hired for the job. And I hate that they will hire you just because you're female or a minority or, you know, whatever the case is. The D&I has been so overused and abused that it's complete crap at this point. Most companies that say they have diversity and culture, it's a lie. It's just fluff.
And the statistics are really hard to weed through. You know, I've seen statistics that say we've increased our diversity by 10%, but they never tell you what it started at.
Well, and how did you do it? Like, you hired a woman?
And where? Is that all entry level? Is that soft roles? Is that technical roles? Is it leadership roles? Is it C-level roles? Like, where is the diversity if I went looking for it?
Well, and to just one last point, what I also want to stop seeing, and this might piss people off. I want companies to stop putting people in positions just because of the color of their skin or the gender that they are, and because you're setting them up for failure. If this person is not ready to be management level or, you know, move to the next step, or you're hiring them into the company completely, please don't hire just to fill quotas. It's so racist and just discriminatory, and it needs to stop.
I agree.
And this is coming from a room full of women. Like, our male peers that are listening, you know, we don't care who we work next to, but at least give us a seat at the table. You know, if we've earned it, give us a seat at the table. Don't look at me as someone that's just a woman. I'm also super fucking smart, and I've led teams in combat. Like, and by the way, my best teams I've ever led were mostly female teams, and we kicked ass. And our supervisors are like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you did that, and you didn't need anybody to help you. Like, no.
Because you didn't think we were capable to begin with. We could have boiled an egg and you would have been impressed, sadly.
What do you want to see, Meryl? I'm interested in...
I agree. I think empowered women should empower women. I think we should stop making it harder, because honestly, if I claw my way to the top of anything, I don't want to make it harder for other women to get there, because I don't want to have to be fighting the uphill battle of convincing my peers every day who are likely going to be stale, male, and pale. I want more women in that room. I want more diversity in that room. I want neurodiversity, ethnic diversity, background diversity, thought diversity. I want lots of different opinions. I want everyone to be like, yes, Meryl, we agree with you because you have the best idea. I'm like, I don't have the best idea. Has anyone else got an idea? So I want that. I would also love to see people actually empower their DE&I initiatives or boards or committees or leader or whatever. If you put one in there, just let them do something. Let them enact some change. It could be as simple as policies, like it could be as simple as moving the offsite. Like, it could be as simple as, hey, we know that that's spring break, your kids are going to be out of school, so we'll move it 3 weeks later so that they're back in school. It's probably easier for your caretakers or your spouse.
How about you offer freaking daycare and child support at those offsites?
Yeah.
So that somebody doesn't have to jump through hoops to figure out what they're going to do with their kids.
Yeah.
I love that.
I agree. You know, when I started at a company, there's offsites, and I was like, I'd love to be there, but like, I just don't have anyone. I'm not seeing anyone right now. My parents can't do it. They both work full time. I don't have anything to do with my kids. Like, well, could you even come out for like one day? Like, we could fly you in and out the same day. I'm like, that would be exhausting for me. And like, I would still have to go get my kids at like 10 p.m. when I land at home from my parents, and then have them at school the next day and wake up early. Like, that's insane. Like, no, thank you. I'd rather just not. It's not worth it. So I would love to see, you know, put the people whose perspective you want to consider in the room. If you're thinking of a new policy, invite someone from that demographic, get their input and let them, we're thinking of doing this. How would that affect you? That's a horrible idea. If you make these changes, that's a lot more feasible. Like, you know, like you don't have to even give them permanent leadership positions, although I'd love to see that. Just invite them to the conversation and you'll get a perspective you don't have today. You know, honestly. So, that's really one thing I would love to see. I'd also love to see vertical and horizontal diversity.
Ooh. Explain what you mean by that for the viewers.
I'd love to see it at all the levels. So like I said, like if you're like, we're going to be, you know, a lot like Caesars back when I worked there was like, we have an initiative to be 50% diverse, like 50-50 with our leadership team specifically. Leadership. So a director level and above, Caesars numbers across the boards are going to be 50-50. You know, it might not look that way at your building or your location, but across the company. And I was like, okay, leadership. So I know that directors and above, directors, junior VPs, and C-levels will all be 50-50 by a certain date. But they didn't just say we're going to increase it 50% and then make that all, you know, housekeeping staff, janitorial staff, entry-level staff, like college interns.
HR, legal, and marketing.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. You know, I didn't see, but I would love to see, like, we're going to make tech 50% diverse. We're going to make the C-level 50% diverse. We're going to make, you know, finance, operations, and accounting 50% diverse. Things like that. So I just think that it's not enough just to say you're going to do it. And it's not even enough just to assign a metric to it. You have to put more depth into it. Like defense in depth, you have to do diversity in depth. You have to put some intention and consideration and real strategy behind it. Like that's why you hire an officer to be in charge of it. It takes a strategy. It takes buy-in. It takes culture. It takes unlearning some things and learning some new things. So I guess that's my takeaway.
I would like to not be asked in an interview that, so is travel an issue for you? Because, you know, they start asking if you're married, if you have kids. And a lot of the times I don't answer, but sometimes depending on how I feel.
I know they're trying to get
they're not allowed to ask.
But they're not allowed to. I actually had someone, I was like, just tell me about yourself. I was like, you know, I offered it. I was like, I have 2 kids, blah, blah, blah. Oh, are you married? And I was like, no. And she goes, why? And I'm like, so none of your damn business. Like, why I'm not married.
Is travel going to be an issue for you?
Yeah, this position requires 10% travel. Is that going to be an issue? And then you have to justify all 10 of your family members who are going to come in clutch. List your babysitter's names and socials. It's obnoxious. Like you would not make a man go through that. In fact, we have a trans audience member whom I love. I love seeing Ray in my comments. And she said something. She was like, I can't find the comment now, but she said they grind their heels in going, oh, so-and-so got knocked up. Now he has to give them 8 weeks of maternity leave, but they have no problem giving a guy who injured himself playing ice hockey with his buddies 8 weeks of medical leave. It's a perspective shift, y'all. It's a perspective shift.
And that's what we need is we need that perspective shift. And the same things that I preach about the sales process changing from the top down. It's a whole process and shift of thought because, and I'm going to help change that. I'm not going to be a huge conglomerate. Maybe one day I will be, but I'm going to start making little changes and this kind of stuff. I don't care if you have kids. I don't care if you're married. People ask me all the time if I'm married, and I know that they're not trying to be rude, but like, okay, I'm not married and I've been with a guy for 5 years. Oh, well, do you guys live together? No.
None of your business.
Well, why are you guys planning on getting married? What does it have to do with me coming to work for you or working in the industry? You know, and customers, I love the customers because they don't care if I am married, gay, single, have 20 baby daddies. Like they don't care. They just want my help.
Is the job going to get done?
Yes. Yeah. My employer. And a lot of times the customers honestly love working with women because they have, well, and what I've noticed, they have somebody to talk to their wife about, or like I've had customers where I become friends with them and they like, hey, what's a good idea for my wife for Mother's Day or whatever. Right. So we add a lot of value bringing it back to being a mom in cyber, but we're also super, super good to have on board because of how we can multitask and how many things we can actually do. Whereas men, they just want to solve the problem and move on or avoid it. We're more analytical. We like, break it down and think about it, and we're problem solvers, and men are problem solvers too, but just in a different way. That's why they say we're more emotional than men, because our strengths of, you know, breaking things down and thinking about it is used against us and saying that we're emotional. And I've had some great male leaders, don't get me wrong, but I've had some really horrible ones as well. Really
Haven't we
horrible
all?
ones.
Sadly, y'all, if you work with a woman and you work in a cyber or tech vertical, you work with a woman who's had a horrible boss. You work with a woman who's had a toxic experience. You work with a woman who has to say at some point in her career, ugh, because, you know, that manager, that
I was
person.
sexually assaulted. I was fired because I have kids. I was
called out in a meeting. I've had my expertise questions, all that.
Yeah, it's so embarrassing.
I'm going to link this in the post show notes, but I suggest all of you go watch my episode on George Kamade, Bare Knuckles Brass Tacks. I talked about the sexual harassment that I dealt with coming into the industry, and I put it lightly. It was light.
You know what's crazy, and I touched on this in previous episodes, when I told Heather I wanted to go to DEF CON, like Black Hat, like all those years ago, she was like, be careful, like take a buddy, like, and we have to warn each other. And like, I've never personally seen that, you know, I think it's what I put out. That's what I attract. I've only attracted like really supportive.
And you're really hard to miss. No one is.
I know, but I attract really supportive male allies. Like I have a ton of great guy friends, a ton of great colleagues in this industry who are phenomenal individuals. I've personally only ever been met with toxic masculinity a few times, but I still had people warn me before I got there, like take a buddy with you everywhere you go. Don't go to happy hours or consume drinks alone. Like if you or your chick friend doesn't buy the drink for you, don't drink it. And like, it's sad that like no one's giving men those speeches before they go to cons, but we have to give those speeches to each other as women. That sucks. Okay, this has been an extremely long episode. We're approaching the 50-minute marker. We are not limiting ourselves. We've had so much fun. We'll probably have Heather back so we can rant some more, because we can get to like even a third of the questions that I outlined for this episode. But it was fun. Yes. We had so much fun. We hope you enjoyed being with us on some mom diversity, equity, and inclusion today. Since we kind of already did our final takeaways, what we'd like to see from leadership, instead I'll let you share a book recommendation or a spicy anecdote if you'd like to.
I've got a book. I've got to look it up, though. Keep going.
Okay.
Your story is amazing. And again, I want to, you know, with Memorial Day coming up and being very patriotic, I just remember those who've served, men, women. They fought for us. Very, very, very supportive of both of you are veterans. So thank you for everything that you have done. I know people get upset when you're, you know, some people get upset when you say thank you for your service and you're not serving anymore, but I don't care. You guys are great.
I sacrificed.
I love the audience.
Sacrificed.
We all sacrificed.
Thank you.
For me to sit here and rant, this is what you guys, I'm here because of, you know, our military and veterans.
Yeah, our free speech, definitely. I found the book. It's called Invisible Women by Caroline Coronado Perez. Invisible Women by Caroline Coronado Perez. And we did it during one of Optiv's book clubs. And literally it totally highlighted and broadened my abilities to understand what other women go through because of the simple things that we have been built around us.
Invisible Women by Caroline Coronado Perez. Okay, I'm definitely going to watch.
One of my favorite movies was Hidden Figures, the one about the women, the Black women, and persons of color behind all the NASA success back in like the 80s during the Cold War. Phenomenal movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
I remember that part where she said she had to walk 2 miles to go to the bathroom. Are we still walking 2 miles to go to the bathroom, you guys? We're walking 2 miles to go pump to take care of our kids. That's a problem.
It's kind of a congruency.
I do want to say for the allies, for our male allies out there, we appreciate you guys. Recently, somebody told me that we bash men on this podcast with the way that we talk, and that person must not listen very well because that's not what we do. These are real things that the coming generations are going to worry about and think about. They will look at your executive board. If you don't have diversity, they're not going to go work for you. So we need more allies. Please don't be afraid to stand up. I know people are scared to lose their jobs, but we appreciate all of you for everything that you've done for us.
I will say that
Yes.
We don't just hate on men. We hate on specific people who committed specific actions. That was their choice. And we do that whether you're male or female. If you're a toxic female, we hate on you. If you're a toxic dude, we're going to hate on you. We don't just hate on any demographic. We're not here to raise women up by putting other people down. Again, empower women, and we empower everybody around us. So it's not like I ignore all the DMs I ignore every DM from a guy asking me for advice. I give advice freely because I got advice from a lot of men. So we don't do that. We don't do that. If Erica was being a total a-hole, I would tell her. And if I was in a meeting with a dude who was a total a-hole, I'm going to tell it. So that's
some of my bestest friends that I've met in the industry are men, and they are amazing people in this field.
Literally phenomenal people. So anyway, all right. With that, we do have to wrap up this episode, but we are probably going to have Heather back because I wanted to talk about some of the work-life balance and challenges of being a mom and stuff too. We unfortunately just don't have enough minutes in the episode. But thank you so much for sticking with us through this extra long one, especially for listening in the replay. We, the Queens, do love you and appreciate your time, attention, and support. We know you have a lot of podcasts you can choose from. We're happy that you choose us, etc., Southwest Airlines. Anyway, if you like the content, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It's absolutely free and the number one way you can support us. If you also want to boost our engagement, please continue to hate on us or love on us in the comments. I'll take anything I can get.
Give us feedback.
We love you all. Yes, we will see you next week.
Tell your friends.
Thank you, Heather. I love you. I miss you. I'll see you soon. Heather and I live like 30 minutes away from each other, and we never hang out because we suck. But we will do the next one in the same room. That would be great. All right, y'all.
We love you. Bye.
Bye. Best buy we've ever done. Best buy.